So this is it, people. My £100 million release clause has been met by Arsenal and they agreed to sign me. Now, all I need to find out is, have I passed the medical? How'd I do, Doc?
It's not great news. I think it was the 15-year contract you were asking for. I think your knees will hold up, but you failed on life expectancy.
Hi and welcome along to AFTV. I'm here with Dr. André, here again for another brilliant video. Dr. André, of course, from Oxford Natural. And I didn't like what you said to me there.
Oh,
about life expectancy.
Oh, sorry.
And do you know why that's not true?
Okay.
I've got a surprise for you. Because I've got the elixir.
Okay, you got me. You got me. Exactly.
There you go. Look, see, I've got the elixir, right? Which this is. Well, tell us about this.
So this is the next level where we've done the Optimum. We've done brilliant things with that, and then what do we do for the next year? It is the anti-aging. It is the DNA repair, and there are 6 things in the elixir which will help repair the DNA damage that accumulates over a lifetime. There's NMN, there's fucoidin, quercetin, all your vitamin B vitamins, and vitamin D as well. So it's just a very clever way to defluff your DNA so we can repair and start kicking out good proteins rather than damaged proteins. So look at you, elixir, you're gonna live forever. You're gonna live forever.
I'm gonna live forever, man. Yeah, I mean, so that 15-year contract might not even be a bad thing. And by the way, these 2 bad boys have still been helping me.
Yeah.
The Optimum Day, the Optimum Night, love that one, gets me a good sleep. And this one's been helping me with my weight loss journey, which is still continuing. It's going all right.
And it is the new year, isn't it now?
Yeah.
So some people like New Year's resolutions, some people don't.
I like them.
Yeah, I think it's a great time
I call
to
them targets more than resolutions. Yeah.
And the phrasing over time has got a bit hackneyed, hasn't it? I like them when they are realistic, when they are not crazy expensive, when they are not unique, like, I don't know, wearing a chicken suit and going into an ice bath. Something that no one else does. Do it with a group of people that do something similar, because then it's a shared journey which is better. And I think that's where the Optimum is very good, because Christmas was generally a bit wild. It's a bit crazy. You find that you're eating, salted cashew nuts at 3 o'clock in the morning, things you wouldn't normally do. Yeah. So when it comes to diet, weight, getting your metabolism back again, you don't have to do crazy things. You just have to be not Christmas for a couple of weeks. And the Optimum can start to regulate what you've been doing in terms of sugar, in terms of muscle build, fat burn. And also it's darker. I mean, this is a tough month, isn't it? Yeah. January is a tough month. It's dark outside. The 5-HTP in Optimum gives you a little mood boost, which is good. And again, always good sleep, because you know yourself, when sleep is off, everything goes off. And sleep is a bit upset over Christmas with late night booze and all those sorts of things. So we're getting back into good regular patterns. When you go wild over Christmas, it takes maybe a few months to regulate yourself again. So patience with these things, let them work, let them reestablish good appetite routine, good sleep routine, and then weight comes off, energy returns. Takes a few weeks for these things to really kick in. So as always, if you're making a change, be patient. Don't expect too much too soon. Be patient with it. I think is very, very important.
And listen, these are wise words, right? Because he said this to me when I first met him. And when did I first meet you? Was it last year?
About the March time, wasn't it?
About March, right? And then, after I met him, and he introduced me to these brilliant supplements, and then also gave me a lot of information on diet, on sugar, on things to avoid, right? And you kind of changed my life in a way, because I followed those things. I take these religiously, and I've lost a lot of weight. I feel a lot more energized, and I think what you said at the time, it's not a quick fix. It's not going to happen overnight. This is a journey. And it's so true. It's so true. And so I'd say to anybody watching this video that if you follow these things, you have a go at these supplements, right? By this time next year, I think you will be a different person. So but hopefully, I'm taking it back, because I'm still hurt by what you said about in that video about life expectancy, right? Hopefully with the elixir, I can live longer as well, right? But let's get into it though, right? We are now in the January transfer window, right? So obviously, lots of players getting linked with Arsenal, lots of players getting linked with loads of teams right across Europe, right? What will happen is in that process is a team, hopefully Arsenal, this January transfer window, will decide to buy a player, right? Before that player signs on for Arsenal, once the fee's been agreed and everything like that, and I know I had £100 million release clause, but that's a joke, right? But once that's all been agreed, before they can sign on that dotted line and become an Arsenal player, they're going to have to do a medical. And that's why I wanted to speak to you today in this video. You very famously did a medical for somebody that we all know. He did the medical for Mikel Arteta when Mikel Arteta joined Everton all those years. I still can't believe you don't look old enough to have done that. You must have been were you a junior doctor then or something like that?
Yes.
Yeah, you're right. But you did the medical for Mikel Arteta, and you've done the medical for like loads and loads of players over the years.
Yeah.
I wanted to find out, what do these medicals entail?
Yeah.
Right? Because we always hear about players taking medicals. Some fail, most pass. What do they have to go through on these medicals?
Yeah, I mean, transfer day is always, it's quite a wild day, because you get the player, you've got to meet the player, get to know them initially, and yeah, you're gathering as much data as you can. You're looking to protect the club, making sure that what we're taking as an asset that day is what we think we're getting. And sometimes these, the data gathering is going to establish things which we didn't expect, or maybe raise questions about a player's longevity, about whether they're going to give us the games we want out of them. Now, everything always, you never know the future. We always know that, but we're looking to minimize risk. So it's often a busy day, and everything has to be done under time pressure, because once a player is available, then if we don't rush and get the player we want, someone else comes in and takes them as well.
Yeah.
So there's always time pressure that way. So the first thing we want to know is just to meet them, take a full history. So just talk to them and learn about what they've been doing in terms of injuries, health, operations, hernias, recurring issues. So that's the history taking part. Then the physical examination, where you've got to check every joint. And
Every joint?
There's probably a routine examination where pretty much, yes, every joint. Obviously, it's a goalkeeper. Hands, shoulders, fingers are very important. Wrists, slightly less so for an outfield player. That's much more lower body, spine. Then you've got that like concussion history. Other operations, which maybe you'd never really thought were football related, but may affect their longevity as a player. So just building all that data. But yes, a detailed examination from spine to hip to knee to foot to ankle, all those things.
And what's that with scans?
Well, first of all, you've got to do the physical examination, because a scan is a photograph, like a photograph of a holiday. And so look at this, they're having a good time, weren't they? When if you were actually on the holiday, you'd say, no, that was just one moment, the rest of it was terrible. So there's nothing like actually examining in the flesh, because a scan can't show you a limited range of movement. It won't show you a muscle wastage. So you've got to do this functional assessment to just understand that, okay, now I know these knees, I know these ankles, I can be safe that they move properly, they're supple, they are, again, laxity is important. Your ligaments are there to prevent over movement. If the ligaments are lax, when you stress the joint, there's too much give, then you think, gosh, that's just not stable and that's not going to survive. That's not the same as an 18-year-old ankle or knee. So you've got to build this picture, this physical picture, and then they go from you to the scanning department. Normally it's in a specialized place who do these scans very detailed. And it will be some X-ray, which just shows bone, and then MRI, which shows all the soft things, and maybe sometimes specialized ultrasound or CT with contrast. Again, getting all this data, does it look on the scan the way it seems in the flesh? Because I've seen scans of people which look like a 90-year-old. Literally a 90-year-old knee, but the guy had played 300 games without injury. So a scan can be very misleading. It has to be combined with the player's recent history of playing and also how they feel physically when you examine them. You might even make them have a little run around with a few younger players. Just kick the ball around, twist and turn, just to see how they move biomechanically. But hopefully you've got footage recently of them playing, so you can just watch that anyway. But the concern is you look at the knee and they've played, but you see a lot of wear and tear, like a lot of cartilage breakdown, where it's virtually bone-on-bone contact. And that means the player maybe hasn't got too long to go. And that must obviously factor into your calculations about their longevity. So no 10-year contracts for people in their late 30s with worn knees. That's why these contracts get shorter and shorter, because the examination, the scans are telling us this is a person whereby the clock is running.
Wow.
So also, concussion history is important. We know now this more so than ever.
Yeah.
A player with 5 or 6 concussions, one more could be the end of the career. Doesn't matter how good his knees are. So concussion history, maybe even if a player's had a history of mental health issues, you may see a psychiatrist or a psychologist if it's needed.
How deep?
Yeah, blood tests too on the day. So scans for long-term infections and liver health, kidney health, heart health. And heart tests.
Yeah, so you've been having a few drinks, you're going to discover it.
That's right. And heart health as well. Obviously, we see some players suffering on the field sometimes, sudden collapse, sudden heart attack. So an echo scan, an ECG test, look at the conductivity of the heart to make sure nothing is being missed that might cause a sudden eruption on the pitch that way. So you're gathering all this data from various people, various specialists. If you're really concerned about a knee, you might go to a knee specialist. So look, you examine that knee and you feed back to me what you think about it. And then there was this sort of gathering data moment in the afternoon where we look at everything and then work out what we think the value of that player is, where the risks are, and then that's down to management then and the board to come to the final conclusions about offers for contracts and those things.
Okay, so you as the doctor don't really make a decision on the player. You just sort of gather all the information that you can pass to the manager, pass to the owners or the people who are going to be buying him.
Yeah.
For them to make a decision on whether they're going to sign that player or not.
That's right. I mean, you have the final say. If it's an absolute no, then you probably do have the final say. You say, I will not pass this person. So there was no insurance coming for this person. If the team doctor says they're not a worthwhile asset, you won't get the player insured, and hence there's just too high a risk.
Would there be pressure sometimes from, because we've seen in the past there's certain players that have been injury prone.
Yeah.
But they've still ended up signing.
Yeah.
I always remember the most famous one at Arsenal was Kim Kallstrom.
Okay.
Who signed on for Arsenal, who then it turned out he actually had a problem with his back, a broken bone in his back. It looked like they knew about it already, but they still signed him.
Yes.
So that would have they probably overrid the
I mean, sometimes
the medical team then.
But one of the hardest things is signing a player who's currently off injured. I mean, it certainly happens, and probably because of finance. You think you can get a player for less money when they are high risk, and so the younger player with injuries, been off for a while, they're clearly a cheaper buy than when they're at their peak playing every game. So you think, well, maybe there's a chance that, every medical department believes it's better than the other medical department. Okay, so no, we'll get him and we'll make him better, and then he'll have a long career. Everyone believes that. Okay, it is rarely true, but there's that definite belief that when we get him, it'll be different because we'll run his rehab so much better than has been done beforehand. But yes, you can sign a player for a year, can't you? A year is probably the shortest contract you can get. Most players, any age, you can get a year out of them in some formats. So you've got to be really in some body turmoil to fail to think. I failed one player completely, and it caused no end of hassle and trouble and it took about a minute to fail him. Okay, because literally
1 minute.
He'd been with the squad and he'd been playing in somewhere abroad pre-season, and he came back for the signing medical. And just as I started the medical, one of the coaches, a really trusted old player, he said, "Doc," he says, "he can't turn." Okay, I went, okay, all right, okay, just a nice, useful bit of information. So I did this test whereby you basically just get on the couch on your knees, okay, and we just ask you to lean backwards as far as you can go. Okay, it seems a very simple test, almost like a yoga pose, but it tests almost everything, every joint. So the spine has to bend, the hips have to give, the knees have got to bend, the feet and ankles, you can see everything. And he just couldn't do it. He was like up here, as opposed to being down here. And I thought, oh, he's gone. He's just gone. The spine's too stiff, hips are too stiff. We'll never get any use. So we went through the process, but in my head it was a fail. And that's what happened. And then it caused problems because the player kicked up, because when you fail a medical, your value's gone, hasn't it? I mean, no one wants you. No one wants to invest in that all over again. So you've got to be sure that you've made the right decision there. But it's less common to fail somebody. Just I think, no, we can't agree terms. That's more common. They want this long and we're not willing to go that long. And maybe it falls apart on those grounds more than absolute fail.
Yeah, interesting. What about, right, when a player, so we see these ones a lot, right? Across various football clubs where a player from abroad, right? Now it's deadline day and that player's playing in Brazil, right? How are those medicals done?
Yeah.
Right? Because sometimes that player's not going to get over to the UK in time to get a medical, but we'll see the player still be signed on.
Yeah.
Is it that they've trusted somebody in Brazil to do the medical, or whichever country it was to do the medical? And how can you trust those people? I'm not, listen, nothing to anybody in Brazil. I'm sure they're as professional as we are here. I'm just using that as a country. I'm picking that as a country. But how can you trust somebody so far away to deliver the medical like how you deliver the medical? Because, you know, a player could easily slip a doctor, say, listen, I need this move.
Yeah,
or his representatives could be like, listen, he needs this move.
Yeah. Well, they can. I mean, you can have to go sometimes. I remember having to go to Dubai and places and be flown in to be there in body to see the medical. You can do it virtually, so virtual assessments. You can watch it done that way. There's a network of well-known specialists around the world which you can rely on. So you could send them to people, and you just have a trust that they've done this before. You've seen them give good results before. So but you wouldn't do it blind. People you've never heard of. That would be. I mean, you could do, but you'd say, look, we can do it, but it's just a blind risk in that case. But generally, you want some good data, and if it comes to getting on a flight, going over there and doing it. I was on holiday once in Dubai and just on the beach, and they said, look, there's a player at the Jumeirah Hotel or whatever, go and do his medical now. I was like, okay, so to get all the sun cream off and run over there and do it, and then get local people to do all the scans for us. When it's a deadline that way, you have to just rush around and do it, and you report back what you know, and it's for the board to decide. The club's ultimate risk.
You're under a lot of pressure though as a doctor, aren't you? Because if it's a big signing, like I'm looking at Arsenal at the moment, right? Say for instance, I'm gonna, just put this as a scenario, right? We all after a striker, right? So let's say it's going down to like near deadline day now, right? A big name striker has been identified, right? And has agreed to sign for Arsenal. Everybody's excited. So all the fans out there are excited. All the media are going on about it. They're excited. Everybody around the club are excited, you know what I mean? Because this could be it. This could be the signing that gets Arsenal over the line. Then you rock up, ask him to do that test you just spoke about, and he can't even bend backwards, and you're like, nah. It's a lot of pressure, isn't it?
It is. It's huge. And that's why you've got to know your stuff. You've got to know what you're doing. You've got to be, and have faith in the process. You've got to be clear with people when you find things. Because yes, if a manager wants somebody, just wants that name, wants just the name, makes them feel better, having that name in the club, you've got to be protective of the club's reputation, and obviously it's hard-earned money, because you don't, and of course it will only come back to bite you in the end. You're the person who's going to get it in the neck if it does all fall apart. So they're nervous days in that sense. It's when it throws up these little things, like a scan with a wear and tear on it, and you go, oh no, that could that just flake off tomorrow? It could just and you just, there are some years where you're nervous about a player, because you think, I know what, you don't see him as a player, you see him as like a bunch of joints with the scans that and thinking, oh no, don't go in for that tackle, don't, just keep it, take it easy. So it's, but they're nerve-wracking days for the player too. Players are never as friendly as they are on transfer day. Okay? They are like
your best friend. You want
your daughter to marry them. They're so obliging. Everything is doable on those days. It makes sense. And they come when they join the club. It's not always.
They'll sign every autograph on that day. They'll invite you out for dinner, everything, because they want that move, right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Some players are really, really. I mean, remember when we sometimes sign players from lower divisions to come up. They're lovely days because they are so keen to leave that division and actually enter a place that has a medical department. They've never seen one before. They just have to just. They're quite nice days because they love this idea of entering a world which is better than they had before.
The player's fearful sometimes. Like a player knows he's got a little niggle or something like that, and he's worried that he might not pass it.
And they can be very honest with you about that as well, and say during the initial chat and getting to know them, they'd be just concerned about how we view this thing, and they'll try and say, well, it's not been so bad recently. But at the end of the day, there is so much data now, so you could just look at the players' data from the last 10 months and get a good idea. What peak speeds he reaches. How much he runs in a game. We didn't have those things 20 years ago. It was much more blind. But I think you have a bit more data now than you ever had before. Yeah.
Well, listen, it's so interesting. Let's hope Arsenal do get a couple of big signings in and they pass their medical. But it's been a great insight. Yeah. Thank you very much for it. And once again, tell us about your products as well that you've got.
Yeah.
The day and night.
Well, that's right. Yeah. Again, if you're looking to make that New Year's change, then do it in a way which is simple, easy. It helps you clear out the crazy cupboard you have at home where you bought weird things over the years. Our scientists have simplified it to 8 things in a capsule morning, capsule night time. Give it time, be patient with it, get better sleep, better energy, weight loss, better fitness over time, along with good diet and a healthy lifestyle, of course. Start it as soon as you can, and then this time next year, we'll have a nice conversation about how you've done so much better over the year.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. Thank you once again, Dr. André. And if you're interested in any of those products, just click the link in the description. Thank you, and see you on the next video.
So say we know how busy transfer day is. Busy for us because we have a window of opportunity where we have you and do all things we want to do. But busy for a player too, because you are sent around everywhere on those days, aren't you?
Yeah, it's hectic. It certainly is. And obviously players coming from overseas, from different countries as well. And obviously the cut-off's like 12 o'clock at night. So obviously getting players in on transfer deadline day is quite demanding for the player and for the club to try and get the deal over the line. And like you say, we're doing here, there's a lot of the medical that's a lot of time taken up with the medical doing that.
I mean, the first thing we do is really just have a chat. We know your history as a player. We can download that, but then we talk to you about previous operations, previous recurring injuries, hernias, infections, anything that's kept you off playing for the last couple of years, and build that feel, your recent health. Then we get into joints, and we do an examination from top to toe, as you know. And then we send you off then for whatever scans we need, specific to whatever we find on the examination. You have bloods taken, and we look at your blood history and your blood workup as well. Previous concussions, we might do a neuro assessment.
A few of them.
Yeah, indeed. And then we're building this picture of you in terms of the physical, the mental, the scan, the past history, the concussion, to come to a conclusion as to really your value, your longevity, and then obviously the deal has to be done elsewhere.
Yeah.
But I mean, you had a recent surgery on your right knee. You had meniscal issues. You showed me the pictures. It's all frayed, and you had that treated. And we can see now, if we imagine you'd not had the surgery, you were coming just for the medical, having had maybe a bit of an on and off appearances in the last year, we'd see there's a big difference between muscle bulk, between this sort of major ham here and this still substantial, but definitely withered on this side where the surgery was. And you can see how the muscle here has gone thin compared. You sort of tighten that one there, and then this side here, it isn't the same.
I think that's obviously down to me. Obviously, after the operation, I had a period of time where I just wanted to let it heal. Yeah. I maybe should have had a brace on, but obviously the surgeon I used was fantastic and trusted what I was doing. Yeah. So yeah, it was just a case of if I was obviously still in professional sport, my prehab would have been a little bit different, probably a lot more professional than what it has been. Yeah. In that sense, that's probably why now I'm still getting a little bit of fluid in my knee,
Mm-hmm.
and obviously I've lost a lot of muscle mass in my quad, calf, hamstrings. So obviously before I get doing any sort of like running, stuff like that, then it'll be a case of building these muscles up that I've obviously lost a lot of muscle mass.
You see, as you bend this knee now, so bend this heel towards
my range
there.
is getting there now.
Tight,
Yeah,
it's slow. When you try and hyperextend it here, compared to this side, which is free as anything.
Yeah.
You see how that sort of hyperextension here is present. So easier to do. So, like I say, if we take the surgery out of the equation, you just simply come as a player, not player. We'd say, oh gosh, there's some wasted, there's some issue here. So we'll do the usual scans, but we've got to really focus on this.
Yeah.
And maybe even send you to see a specialist on the day to really focus on that knee to see, because this is the thing that's going to end career
to be fair, it probably ends career early, but obviously it's a big risk for the club. Obviously, if a player's got ongoing issues with a certain part of his body, I'm sure the club, before they enter contract negotiations, will obviously view the medical reports and see any sort of history. But I think once it comes to the nitty gritty part of the deal, if there's still a little bit of an outstanding problem, I think ultimately it's down to the club to call it. And you've seen players in the past that have gone on to obviously get the deal done and over the line and have struggled. And then you've seen instances where clubs have just said, no, not for us.
That's right, yeah. But you can do a scan sometimes, and the scan is rotten. It looks really aged.
Yeah, absolutely.
But the player is on fire.
Yeah,
playing brilliantly.
He's playing 30, 35 games a season.
And so it's bringing that together. Sometimes a scan on itself is not enough.
Yeah.
You need to have the scan, the physical, maybe make you run around with some of the young kids, just to and fro, just to see how you move, how you twist, how you turn. And that's very telling, just how you know, when you play against a player and he can't turn, you know you've got him. You know, and so just to see how the whole biomechanics are working.
Yeah, really I've had instances before I didn't really get muscle injuries, probably weren't quick enough to get too many muscle injuries, hamstrings and calves and stuff. But in terms of, I've pulled my calf and I know I've pulled it, and I'm thinking, it feels like I've pulled it, but it doesn't feel too bad. And then you go and have a scan and it says you've got a grade 2, which is obviously is a big tear. So I think you treat the player more than the scan. But obviously, you do go off the reading of the scan, and it is important to obviously follow that. But sometimes I think you manage the player more than that.
That was always the difficulty. Sometimes is we must deal with the patient because the scan is just a photograph. But often higher ups in the club just say, well, what does the scan show? What does it show? We go, well, in reality, movement, mobility, muscle strength, those things are so key. The scan is a guide, but often it's just, we'll wait for the scan, then make a decision. When really medicine is still the same thing. Assess the player, assess the range. Scan is useful, but not the crux of everything.
But for me, when I suffered an injury, whether it was muscle more than obviously knees and stuff like that, because obviously the severity of knees can be quite high, but muscle stuff, if a physio turned around and said it's 8 weeks, automatically in my head I'm thinking I'm cutting that down to 6, 5 or 6. That's just the mentality of obviously players and athletes, and they want to get back. But sometimes you've got to be managed by the actual words of the physio as well, because obviously it's important to get you on the pitch right at 100% rather than probably 70, 80%, and you try to push yourself to get back on the pitch quicker than obviously the period of time.
But it's that sort of mentality which is gold. That's the perfect combination. You want a player who just chomping at the bit to get back, or do whatever you need to do, and then the physio or doctor that you trust to then say, okay, but we can just take it a week or a bit slower. Then generally great outcome. When there's confusion, when there's pressure on the physios, the doctors to get you back quicker than really is realistic, or the player doesn't want to do it, they want to drag it out, then suddenly it goes completely messy. But that's what you want.
I was always one of them as well. When I got injured, and obviously the first probably week or 2 weeks, depending on what it is more obviously physiotherapy, ice and game readies, and obviously massage and stuff. But I wanted to start the rehab because I was conscious of losing fitness while I was just sat doing nothing. And obviously, from a psychological point of view, you're looking at the players going out training, and you're sat on obviously a bed, ice in your leg, and it's an absolute killer. So I always was quite fortunate when I was at Sunderland or United when I was injured, that they had a pool at a decent length. So I used to obviously get in early morning, swim, do me obviously stuff with the physios, and try and get in the gym. Any way I could try and get back on the pitch quicker, I'd try and do it.
This is a big thing also, particularly for United issues recently, is players from abroad get injured, then go back home.
Yeah.
And then we have to do this remote thing, trying to do their rehab back there. It's not, I think it's often fraught with
it's not ideal. I can understand in terms of surgeons and stuff like that, because I think there's one in, I don't know his name, Barcelona. I think City used it for Rodri, and I think a lot of the South American boys, Spanish boys, like going there to use this specific surgeon. But I think the rehab, it's important that you obviously you trust the people at the club to get you back onto the pitch.
Yeah, for sure. Good. Well, you had a few transfer days in your time.
A lot.
They can be a bit sore. You get examined, because examining knees is actually properly is quite painful. You
have
to stretch laxity and push. You might get examined by the physio, by the doctor, by an expert. You can be hobbling the next day after those sort of days. Well, thanks, Phil. That's really helpful.
No problem.
And transfer day injuries, what we're looking for. All this data gets gathered. There's a horrible half an hour end of the day where we're working out what have we got. What is the quality of the product in that sense.
Of course.
And then we've obviously put it together into an offer at that point in time. But appreciate your time.
No problem.
Thanks.
Pleasure.